the third video, and that was called Body Language, The Power is in the Palm of Your Hands, and that was by Alan Peace. So one of the things that he really tried to nail into everybody's heads was that there are three different ways that you can use your palms while you're speaking. You can have them palms up, or palms down, or you could be pointing. And these three different ways of using your palms kind of communicates with body language to your audience about how you feel about the audience and how you want them to kind of work with you. So this type of palms would be palms up, and he said that this type was very inviting to the audience and was very neutral and wasn't kind of like accusatory or anything. That's what this one is like. It's kind of you're pointing at someone and you're trying to tell them something, but you're coming off as authoritative and kind of rude. And then this one is also very authoritative, like I'm in charge. And he even used the analogy of the Nazi symbol. You know, if you put your arm up with your palm down, that's a symbol of power and authority, as opposed to something like this, which is more inviting and kind of bringing the audience in with your body language. He also talked a lot about handshakes and what handshakes can non-verbally communicate between two people who are doing them. And so if when you give a handshake, if your hand ends up on top of the handshake, then you are seen as more in power opposed to the other person, and vice versa. So when you do a handshake, if you want it to be good for both people, it's important for you to go straight into the handshake and not, push the other person's hand over or be pushed over by the other person. So say you give a handshake and the person is very strong, you want to try and communicate the same amount of power that the person is shaking your hand with, so it's an even match as opposed to one person being stronger than the other, and that way both people can walk away from the handshake feeling like you're both, equal to one another and one is not in charge of the other. He also talked about they did a study where there were three audiences and they listened to the same speaker, and the speaker gave the exact same speech, but the only thing the speaker changed was his hand position. So the first audience, he gave a speech and he used hand motions with his palms up, and the second speech to a different audience but the same speech, he gave palms down, and then the third one he used the pointing movement. And then they surveyed all three of the audiences to see, one, how much these people remembered from the speech, and two, how much they liked or disliked the speaker. And they found through this study that the audience who watched the presentation with the palms up had not only a much better recollection of what the speaker said, but also a much more positive view of the speaker himself. And then the second two types of using your palms were both, they did not hear the most and recollect the most, and they also didn't really like the person who was speaking to them. I think using these types of hand movements in our upcoming speech is going to be very important. I know we're all going to kind of have authority about what we're talking about to our audience because we get to pick what we're talking about. But if you go into it with some type of authoritative, type of body language or palm movement, your audience isn't going to feel like you're inviting them in to learn about the topic. They're going to feel like you are authoritative and know more than them, and it's not going to be a very positive experience. I also think it can be really important when you're meeting new people or doing job interviews, especially the handshake portion. You want to, be equal to someone when you're handshaking with them. You don't want to seem weak, or you also don't want to seem authoritative, especially if you're meeting maybe a potential employer and you come in with a really strong handshake and it just kind of perturbs them that you're coming into their establishment and already, asserting a type of dominance. So I definitely think what Alan Peace talked about in his, video and in his speech could be very important for a lot of different things that we'll be doing not only in this class but also in the future.